Alright, we're just departing the Pioneer Trailhead, which is near the border of the city of Puyallup, Washington, and Sumner, Washington. It's about the northwesternmost portion of this trail, the Foothills Trail. And the part we go through first, the first half up to Ording, will be probably the most banal part. A lot of farmlands, this type of territory. I'm going to refrain from narrating when I pass other cyclists or riders, just so I don't freak them out thinking that I'm talking to myself. I'm on my cyclocross, which is geared pretty much for a road bike right now. A little heavier than your typical road bike. It's about 20 pounds, and I ride it fairly heavy. I've got brake extenders on it, and I carry a bunch of gear in the back. And I'll talk a little bit about the gear I carry on rides like this, although I assume most people watching this will be riders. So you may not need me to tell you what to carry, but on a touring ride like this, I kind of have my preferences. There you can see in the distance, I think Mount Rainier. It's fairly hazy today, so we're not going to get a gorgeous view of it, but if you can see it at all, it's always very imposing. Right over the house there, hopefully you can see it. So our first marker here will be Pioneer Avenue itself. It's a dangerous crossing. Hi.
That guy's so slow getting back on.
That's a total voluntary stop for cars. It's not marked for them, so you really have to watch that one. You can get plastered easily, and it is a stop for cyclists, so you want to make sure and stop there. There aren't too many places like that on this trail. There's a few where you kind of mix it up with cars as you're starting, so I'll point those out. Most of the trail was built on old rail land, train tracks, and was acquired and developed by a Foothills Trails organization with assistance from local governments, and is maintained very well by them. I wouldn't mind serving someday on the committee that runs this trail, because I've gotten so much use out of it. I really appreciate it. At one point in time, I was doing this trail at least 3 times a week. Right now, you can see all the white fuzz on the ground. The cottonwoods are dropping their fuzz, whatever you call that stuff, and it's fairly allergenic. If you're sensitive to tree mold and so forth, you have to be careful. If you get that in your eye, even if you're not allergic to it, it can really irritate it. Some of the other hazards along this route, which I'll talk about, some by personal experience and some by things I've heard from others, include bumblebees, which I've had personal experience with. Caught a bumblebee in my mouth once here in this route. There's a lot of bees crossing because there's a lot of flowers this time of year. Also deer and other critters like bunnies and snakes frequently crossing the road can be a hazard. I have a friend, Mike Hellum, who did a head-on with a full-grown doe when he was coming down and traveling at a fairly high rate of speed. He jumped out. Actually, he didn't know what he'd hit. Flipped over, landed on the asphalt. Thought it might be a mountain lion, so he looked up and back and saw the doe laying on the ground, struggling to get up, that he collided with. So you do have to be careful. I've seen a number of deer along this route. Matter of fact, I hit a doe in my car just on the highway, about 100 yards to our left, as we're traveling up here through a very small town called MacMillan, which is just another few minutes on our left. It's a 50-mile-an-hour road, and I hit a deer, never even saw it, jumped out in front of me, hit it right between the headlights, doing 50, and looked like, fortunately, it didn't total my 4Runner, but looked like I'd hit a tree, killed the deer instantly. And had been riding this trail with my son, starting up a little higher here. It was about 10 o'clock at night. The sun was just going down, late in summer, and something to remember. A lot of skaters on this trail. You'll see speed skaters. Got one coming down now. What's really embarrassing is when you're passed by a speed skater. So we've got some good, ouch, that was a bumblebee right in the ear. Smacked me. Right in the right ear. Don't know if you heard that, but it was really loud for me. You can, last time I rode, I caught one in the forehead. Once I mentioned I caught one between my front teeth, spit it out before I knew what I'd done. Fortunately, didn't get stung. Only once have I actually, bumblebees normally don't sting you, although they can. Only once have I been stung by one while riding. I think I hit it from behind, which probably surprised it as much as me, right in my stomach. So I was in a world of hurt for about 10 or 15 minutes after that. But I would not want to get stung in the lips, face, eye, mouth, which is normally where I hit them, or ear, like I just hit it just now. Also a lot of gnats, other bugs on this trail. At certain times you go through clouds of gnats, you can barely breathe. They're so thick. But of course they don't hurt you. A little extra protein, not a bad thing. Anyway, let's talk about this section of the trail. A lot of what you're seeing on the left there is blackberries, and right, blackberries. Blackberries come on in about August. They're just growing up now, and they'll blossom pretty soon. And one of the great things about the Northwest is you can take a bucket out here anywhere. Although I have my favorite spots, I'll show you one of them up here shortly. And you can just pick tons of blackberries. So you'd pay quite a bit for them in the stores. Here's our Christmas tree farm over here, working the tractor. Got a nice little Christmas tree farm there. We're going right through the middle of farmlands, so you can see plowed the field to my right. They're doing some other things here. But more Christmas trees up here on the right. I think we're about in MacMillan now. Off to the left, you see cars on the highway. That's the 161 highway that goes through, comes down off the 410, heads south through MacMillan, then Orting, then turns around to the east, heading up towards South Prairie. Pretty much parallel that highway all the way up to South Prairie. Sometimes very close. They usually set off like this at a distance. Pretty little Christmas trees here, nicely manicured. See that bench right there? This is my berry picking spot. So when the blackberries are really thick, you can go through that little gap behind that bench and pick on the back side of these. Front side of these bushes can be pretty picked over. A lot of people pick on them, but not as many on the back, so I have good luck on that. But this is just one of several spots I pick off this trail. And I usually will pick a couple gallons of blackberries this season, at least 3 or 4 gallons. Use some, have them for pies, fresh fruit. My wife Darlene likes to make pies, and the other half I make wine out of. So I've developed a nice recipe for blackberry wine. I usually put up at least 3 to 6 gallons of it in a season. bottle it. A couple of years later, it's pretty good. Dessert wine. Also, other berries that will grow along this trail. The first ones that will come on here shortly are salmon berries. And I don't see any of those down here, but I'll show them to you when we get up to where they're at, up by the river. They're a much larger leaf, kind of like a grape-looking leaf. Farms here. A couple points here, you cross over these railroad tracks. Never a train on them, ever, that I've seen. Matter of fact, it'd be weird if there was one, because it's just mostly dead end. There's a few industrial places up here off to the right. They may occasionally need to take something out by rail, but very rarely. But they've got stop signs on the tracks, and pretty much can't ignore them. Because if there were a train, it'd probably be going really slow there. Our next cross is Military Highway, which heads up to our right, up the backside of the South Hill Plateau at a very good grade. I've seen a few brave cyclists on that. I know they're brave because I tried it once and it was brutal grade going up that hill, but a few people I know that are pretty hardcore do that. And good exercise, that's for sure. It's also a very narrow shoulder and lots of windy road with lots of traffic, so take your life in your hands on it. My wife doesn't let me get out with traffic much anymore, mostly because I've been plastered a few too many times doing it. So this is Military. You have to cross very carefully, make sure no one's turning right or cutting in front of you like that. That person really should have yielded, but as a cyclist, as you know, you have to be a very defensive driver. Cars are not necessarily looking for you and watching out for you, and they assume that you shouldn't be there. So even though as a cyclist you have every much as a right as a car to be there, certainly on the road. Part of the problem here in Seattle is that some of the cyclists have gotten so fed up with cars and they treat them pretty rudely, and they break the laws as far as stop signs and signals and stuff. They don't follow the rules of the road, and so cars and cycles don't really like each other up here very much, which is why I like being off the highway as much as possible, which we will be for the most of the time on this ride. Lots of flowers grow along here in the summer, fall. They're very pretty. I often will pick bouquets for my wife, wildflowers that grow along this trail. It's not real crowded right now. We've only passed, what, 3 or 4 cyclists coming down. It will be much more crowded on Saturday, I can guarantee it. Probably in the evenings as well. Not as bad. Or Sunday. Sunday evening doesn't seem to be too bad here. I typically go out here in the evenings, not in the middle of the day like we are right now, just due to my work schedule. Lots of blackberries coming along, all along here, as you can see. Some places will actually bear more and better crops than others, so you kind of get your favorite spots. It smells really good here this time of year. It is May 15th today, so spring is in full swing here. The weather has been unseasonably warm to the northwest, although that's supposed to change tomorrow. It's supposed to rain this weekend, and as you can see, it's fairly fairly overcast now, so I don't think we'll get rain today at all, but if we do, we'll enjoy that. Just kind of get used to the rain here in the northwest. It's usually fairly light, usually not very heavy. We're going to cross another little road up here with a stop sign, and its stop sign's just our way, so you do have to be careful. There are occasionally people zipping through this road, but not usually. There's some farms up here on our right. Schultz Farm is the biggest one. They have a nice little shop here in the summer. It's operating. It might be open already. I'll have to check and see. I wouldn't mind going in and see what they've got today. They grow a lot of rhubarb here, as you can see. That's what that is, I think. Squash, pumpkins in the fall. Right now it looks like they have rhubarb, peppers, tomatoes, and asparagus. And they are open. I'm going to ignore them now and maybe stop by my way down. I shop there quite a lot. They have nice produce. And special times, things I like there. You'll get cherries, Rainier cherries in summer. Berries. We should have raspberries pretty soon here. Lots of things that are grown right in this valley. They grow some things themselves and of course buy a lot of it from eastern Washington. Nice family that runs it. They always have a huge fall pumpkin festival. Corn maze and all that stuff in the back. Fun thing to bring your kids to. Lots of railroad crossings here as well, but I've never seen a train here either, so I don't pay a lot of attention to those. There are some places where you will see a lot of trains here in the valley, but not on this trail. That hill right there, that's the South Hill Plateau. South Hill is the southernmost portion of the city of Puyallup, although it's not officially city, it's an unincorporated county. You have to be careful here because if you catch a right turner, you know, you can tangle it with them. I saw a guy, well, I didn't see him get plastered here, but I came upon the scene shortly after he had been plastered there, and there were fire trucks and an ambulance, and they were checking him out. Often pedestrians on this trail are horseback riders, equestrians. We're near the road now, so it may be harder to hear, but it's 50 miles an hour here too. This road is heavily trafficked. It's basically the only way in from the north to Ording. Quite a bit of residential in Ording and South Prairie and points south. So a lot of traffic during commuter hours. We're not in commuter hours right now, and you can see there's quite a few cars on it. Really slows down on the ride home. It'll be bumper to bumper and crawling 5-10 miles an hour many times. One of the old bridges here, concrete bridges, as well as the rail bridge here. That is the Puyallup River, crossing under us. I'm not sure, but I think off to our left it joins with the Carbon River, which we will see up here later. I think right there it's just Puyallup. That is the MacMillan trailhead, and that's where I parked twice and got broken into. So that is not a spot I'll park again if I can avoid it. Smash and grab both times once they stole my biking shoes, and I had a lot of other valuable stuff in the car, but they didn't take the time to get it. It wasn't in sight. They also smashed the car next to me and stole his GPS. I had mine in there, but they missed it.